Cool. So are you concerned that everybody is away at school instead of online with school?
Nope, half their classes are online and half are in person. And
Okay.
all right, we're just about to go live. Hang in there.
We're live.
Indeed we are. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Jeff Goldberg coming to you live at 10 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States for the Sales Pro Network. As you know, we formed the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales, to create a place where you could come and ask questions and get training and coaching from terrific guests, as well as other trainers like myself and coaches like myself. It's a place where you can share your successes and your failures, your challenges, and we have fantastic guests. And today's is no exception. It just so happens that I know this lady for quite a long time. She is what I consider to be the world-class expert when it comes to customer service training, although I suspect she'd tell you she's just one of many, but she is absolutely terrific. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to my dear friend and a highly trusted business associate, Randi Busse. Good morning, Randi.
Good morning, Jeff Goldberg, and right back at you, my friend. You are the sales guy, and I am the customer service lady, and together the two of us are like, wow.
Yes, for those of you who are listening or watch on the replay, Randi and I have shared a stage many times. We've referred business to each other. The only reason I'm able to do that is because I trust her implicitly. And before I actually let Randi do her thing, I just want to share with you that when you are networking with people for business purposes, make sure that you only refer people that you know are going to make you look good. The reason I'm so comfortable sending Randi into a client or a prospect of mine is because I know that when she leaves, I'm going to get a call from them saying, whoa, I love this lady. Thank you for introducing her to me. And the way most people network is, please don't make me look bad. I urge each of you, do the opposite. Make sure you're networking with people who are going to make you look good, because who are you going to refer them to? Your clients and your prospects. You want to make sure. So Randi, let's get to you. Would you just briefly tell everybody your history, how you got to be this world-class customer expert? Because I got a bunch of questions for you that I want to get to.
I'm not really sure how it happened, but I can tell you a couple of steps I took along the way. So I spent a long career at Verizon, where I was a customer service manager and trainer and coach, and didn't enjoy it as much as I would have liked to, and really felt that there was a lot of bureaucracy and hands tied, and wanted to take my skills and my enthusiasm to a different audience, if you will. And I thought that if I can really get my hands into the companies of smaller businesses who maybe don't have a huge corporate training budget, and partner, directly with the leadership team to affect change from the top down, I thought that that was going to be effective. And so I was fortunate to figure out what networking was through a woman that we both, hold in the highest of esteem, which is Ellen Volpe. If she's watching, hi, Ellen, I miss you. And you taught me everything I need to know about networking. When you're in a corporate environment, Jeff, you don't even know what the word networking is, because everybody that you need is within the four walls of the company. And so you need an accounting question, you go to accounting. So the word networking was a little scary. I somehow got myself invited to an ABA, American Business Associates networking event. And it just blew me away in terms of how to act, how to give, how to ask, how to promote, how to refer. And along the way, I made wonderful, wonderful friends, of which you are one of the best. And so through networking, I talked about what I did, which was about customer service. And I had some people ask me if I did speaking. Do you speak on that? And I said, sure. Even though I hadn't officially, as a business owner, spoken. I've done trainings and things like that, but I hadn't really delivered a presentation, if you will. And so I got asked many times, and when I would speak, people in the audience would say, oh my God, like that really resonated. Could you speak at our company? Could you come speak at our event? Could you speak at our association? Could you speak at our conference? And before you knew it, I was a professional speaker. And so I pinch myself sometimes because, and I know you speak about this all the time, you know, people actually pay me to do something that I love. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. My business is about, I think I'm going into my 13th year, which is insane. I don't remember what life was like before I was an entrepreneur. And I have to tell you that if I never got another client, and I've said this 100 times, if I've said it once, if I never get another client, I would be okay, because I have such fabulous relationships with the people that I met along the way, you at the top of the list, that have enriched my life in so many ways. And I truly mean that. I truly mean that. And, you know, I credit a lot of that to Ellen Volpe. You know, she knows what she's doing. I've participated in other networking groups, and it's not the same. It's not the same. So,
Yeah,
so here I am. I don't know. Accidental entrepreneur. I never, you know, dreamed that I'd have my own business. It never occurred to me. And once I did, it was like, oh, there's no going back. You know, who would want to get a job?
It's not for everyone, that's for sure. And like you, I credit all my networking expertise to Ellen, who's going to be a guest sometime in the next month, I believe. And
Yes, I have that on my calendar.
hope everybody tunes in for that. And I still remember when Ellen introduced us and asked me to sit down with you just to give you some advice, because you were going off on your own. I remember the diner we sat down in, and I especially remember the discussion about how much should you charge, which is a big thing for speakers. You know, how do I get the fee that I'm really looking for, and how do I charge what I'm worth? And good morning to Steve Kent. Steve, you're always here on time. I started about 30 seconds early. You just missed me rambling on. And good morning, Brian Cohn, a local guy from Long Island who runs the Long Island Speakers Bureau. Good to see you. And Steve said, I've heard Randi speak. She is awesome. You're absolutely right. So let's get to some questions. Randi, how do you define customer service?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm going to tell you the answer in a story, if I may, because, you know, stories tell, right? One day I was taking a car to the airport to a speaking engagement. And I wasn't in a taxi, but I wasn't in a limousine. I was like in the in-between, whatever that is. And the driver was curious and it was asking me some questions, where I was going. Was it personal? Was it business? And I told him that I was a speaker and I was a customer service expert. And I was going to, it was a NARI conference, National Association of the Remodeling Institute. I know you and I have, you know, both spoken to them, but this was their national conference. And he said to me, you know, what are you speaking about? And I said, well, I'm speaking about customer service. And he said to me, well, isn't that just common sense? And I said, yes, as a matter of fact, it is. And you obviously get it. And so when I got to the conference and they brought me up on stage, I told them the story that I just told you. And I said, customer service is just common sense. Thank you very much. And I walked off stage because really that is what customer service is. It's common sense. Now, the bad news is that some of us walking the planet don't have common sense. And that is why we sometimes have not so great customer service experiences. And, you know, I'm being trite, of course, when I say it's common sense, but customer service is treating someone not only the way you want to be treated, which hopefully you've got your own high standard yourself, but it's finding out how they want to be treated and then treating them that way. Now, unfortunately, we're not all walking around with a sign on our head that says, you know, use my name, be patient with me, smile. So you don't necessarily know what it is, but a good starting point is to put yourself in my shoes as a customer and think about, how would this person like to be treated? And it depends a lot on how I present. If I'm upset, well, they want to be treated with empathy and kindness and patience, assuming that the person, you know, is rational, right? Because sometimes if I'm upset, certainly what I don't want is to be interrupted. So, one of the things that I talk about in my book, Turning Rants into Raves, is one of the principles is walk in your customer's shoes. How would you feel if you were the customer, and what would you want? And so that's really the basic tenet of customer service as I understand it. What's your thought about customer service?
It's the ability and responsibility to treat your customers for who they really are, the people who pay your salary, pay your income, feed your family. Because I learned this from you. If you don't take care of your customers, your competition will. By the way, Beth Granger says hello to two of my favorite people, and I know that, like you and I, she's one of ours. You mentioned your book, and I was just about to do that too. Your book is called Turning Rants into Raves. Turn your customers on before they turn on you. Who are Rant and Rave?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. They're my friends. I like to refer to them as the girls. And by the way, they're ladies only for illustrative purposes, because Rant and Rave can be men as well. As a matter of fact, I have men images coming soon. But so here is Rant and Rave. And so Rant is the young lady in the pink jacket. Take a look at her body language. And what is she yelling at you, Jeff?
I don't know. She's yelling that I'm pissed off at you. She's what's commonly called today a Karen. She's pissed off at everything.
A Karen, yes. I didn't use that name, but I call her Rant. And so, by the way, Rant and Rave are employees that work for every company, including yours. And sometimes you don't want to hear this. And as our mutual friend Rob Fishman says, hold your belly, because I'm about to sucker punch you. Sometimes you are Rant. And if you look at Rant, her body language is very closed. She's not smiling. She's not happy. She may not be mad at you, but she's certainly going to take it out on you just because you happen to be standing in front of her to be served, or on the other end of the phone with her, or writing you an email. And so Rant is an employee who is just there for a paycheck. She doesn't care if you become a customer. She doesn't care if you stay a customer. She doesn't care if you're happy, if you're sad. Oh, look, it's 5 o'clock. I have to go now. And she's off the clock. So contrast that with Rave. Rave has open body language. She's smiling. She's got the same job title. She's getting the same pay as Rant, but she's got a totally different mindset. She is there to represent the company. She is there to serve you. She is there to go above and beyond to delight you. And she is engaged, committed, and what I like to say, thinking like an owner of the business. Now, she's not the owner, but she certainly thinks and acts like an owner of the business. And so these two not only don't like each other, right? Because Rant thinks that Rave is just too cheery and why are you always so happy? And Rave is like, what is the matter with you? You're driving away customers. So they don't coexist very well. Now, Rant and Rave, as I said, work in everybody's company. And sometimes Rant is at the top of the heap, and Rant is leading the organization. So these characteristics, if you will, don't know any hierarchy in the business. But think for a minute, if Rant is the owner of the business, and Rant comes in the morning and says, Jeff, I told you to do this yesterday. Why didn't you do it? Do you think you're going to be in a good mood after you got spoken to like that?
Of course not.
Yeah. Do you think if you're micromanaged and you can't make a decision without asking permission, that you're going to take initiative and go above and beyond to delight customers?
I don't.
You of course you won't. And so one of the tenets in the book, which is written for leaders, business owners, CEOs, managers, entrepreneurs, take a look at yourself in the mirror and see how it is that you are showing up in the workplace. Because if you're showing up like Rant, and by the way, I'm not talking about 24/7, because that would be not tolerated by an employee or a leader, but I'm talking about even the occasional Rant behavior is going to have a negative impact on the employees that you are hoping are going to do the right thing and represent your company in the best possible way, but it's going to have the opposite effect.
Yeah, it's funny when you started speaking about rant and rave and said, they work in your company. I immediately thought, well, they don't work in my company. I'm a solopreneur. And then I started thinking as you were talking that, sometimes I'm not in the best of moods, and I'm a generally very happy guy with a positive attitude, but I have stuff in my life like everybody else. And sometimes it's like, oh, I just don't need one more thing at this particular moment. And then the phone rings. And what I do is I take a quick breath, because I have my phone set to go to voicemail after 3 rings, and I've got to pick it up fairly quickly. Otherwise it is going to go to voicemail. But I put a physical smile on my face. And I know I look like an idiot when I do that, but when you have a smile on your face, it tends to make, releases, not oxytocin, whatever the happy drug is in your head. And I make sure that I always put on my cheery voice, even if I'm not feeling cheery at that moment. Hi, this is Jeff. How can I help you? Because the person on the other end of the line doesn't care what's going on in your life. And you really do have to remember, you never know who it is calling. Now, I don't have customer service issues in my business. Knock on wood, I take great care of my clients and always have. But, in most businesses, it happens sometimes. And I think it's crucial that from the top down, everybody realizes that every interaction counts. And I'll repeat it again, because I learned it from you, that, if you don't take care of your customers, your competition will. Jeff Schwartz says, I only bring rave in, and her sisters, and rant's not allowed in her business. And Beth said she gave a rave card to someone and it made her day. What's a rave card?
Yeah, I don't have a rave card with me, but a rave card is a small business card that I had made, and it's got the images of rant and rave on them. And on the bottom, it says, thanks for a great customer service experience. You are a rave. And I had those made up so that when I was the customer and I was getting a good experience, I wanted to recognize and acknowledge the person. And I would explain who rant and rave are. And I can't tell you the impact that getting a card had on the people that, number one, deserve them. And number two, they were just shocked that somebody would recognize them. I've had people, oh, I got to get my manager and show him this, or I'm going to show this to my kids when I get home, or I'm putting this on my refrigerator. And so these rave cards are designed to recognize that rave behavior so that it's encouraged. Now, a lot of people have said, well, Randi, did you make any rant cards? And the answer is no, because I don't think that they would have the same kind of effect on people if I were to go up to somebody and say, you really did a lousy job of taking care of me. You're a rant. So I try and look for the rave, and sometimes it's not so easy to find it. I do want to share a quick scenario with you, because, you talk about you're an entrepreneur, and, you know how important it is to take good care of your customers, because listen, let's face it, Jeff, you're not the only sales trainer around. Now, you may be one of the best, but you're not the only one. And some people may not be able to know that you're the best if they can't get past that initial phone call where you might answer the phone and not be your cheery, chipper self. So I had a client that I was coaching, and one of the things I did was I made a test call into his company. And a test call is a very valuable thing that I will be happy to offer to anyone that's on the video, that's on today with us. A test call is, I will call your company, I will act as if I'm a prospective customer, and I will record the phone call. And then I will share the recording with you, and I will give you feedback on how it was handled. And so this particular gentleman owned a limousine company, and he was the driver, he was the office person, he was the mechanic, he was the car washer, like he did it all. And so when I called him on the text call, he was in the middle of driving somebody. And so he answered the phone, "Limousines, can I help you?" And it sounded like I was bothering him. And he had no idea how he was coming across on the phone. Listen, nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody, most people are not sitting there like this, twiddling their thumbs, waiting for the phone to ring. They're in the middle of doing something. So the phone rings and it's like, oh, who now? Like, what do they want now? And sometimes that shows up on your phone call. And he had no idea that he was doing that. So one of the things I suggested to him was, when the phone rings, and you're driving, pull your visor down, check in with yourself, smile, and then say, thank you for calling ABC Limousine. This is Mark. How can I help you? And so it's putting yourself in the position where you're not showing any frustration or annoyance at the other person, because then I want to say, I'm sorry, was I bothering you? Because I could call another sales trainer, or I could call another limousine company. So we have to remember, when that phone rings, when somebody walks into our business, hopefully wearing a mask, that we're going to greet them as if we're happy to see them, we're glad they came in, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, I think I love the idea of the rave card. It's fantastic. And one of the things I do, look, you know me a long time. I'm quick to complain when there's something, if I've been treated poorly, and we've all been treated poorly by various companies for whatever reason, but I'm just as quick to compliment. And I will call somebody's manager or send a letter saying, I just want you to know what great customer service I got from your representative, Randy. It really made me feel good. And I'm glad that I do business with your company, because I think that also comes back to the person through the manager, and it encourages everybody to continue giving that experience that we all want, but sometimes companies just are not training their people to do properly. So I know that when you teach customer service reps how to be better at their job, you also teach sales techniques. Why is that? How does customer service relate to selling?
Well, I think they're so intertwined. I think that you don't have one, you won't have one without the other. And so not everybody is going to be your prospect immediately. Not everybody is going to say yes immediately. And it's important that the experience that we provide to everyone, whether they're a prospective client or not, is at a certain level. I mean, think about when we were talking about networking earlier. If you didn't give somebody the time of day, they're not going to be so quick to refer you. And so networking, as we learned it, is about helping other people, looking to find ways to add value to them, to introduce them to other people. And so it's so important that we are, ABC always be closing, ABS always be servicing, right? And so how could you get a sale if you're not providing good customer service? Now, it could happen. Don't get me wrong. Maybe you're the only person in town. Maybe you're the cheapest in town, and so I'm willing to put up with a little bit of your, BS, because I'm getting a really good price. But here's the thing: if you won on price and somebody else lowers their price, then you're out. And so customer service is not just before the sale. Customer service is all throughout the sales cycle, and customer service is after the sale. So, you and I kind of go into, similar territories. And, I remember when we met and you had seen me speak, you were like, I used to do customer service training, but because it is so similar, there are so many overlaps. But you graciously and generously said that once you saw me, you were like, I can't hold a candle to you. You do it, I'll do mine, you do yours, and together we'll make beautiful, happy customers.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Randy's not lying. The first time I saw her train, I used to do customers. I had a whole, full day program for my customers on customer service, because sales organizations often need that customer service training. But the first time I saw her, I was like, holy crap, I'm not even close to the level that she's at. And, we began referring each other. Is there such a thing as customer service before the sale, for example, during the sales process?
Of course. And it starts with, if it's a phone call, I'll give you an example. I'm going to be doing some mentoring, and I'm going to be mentoring a business. And the business happens to be a boutique hotel. And I made a test call into the boutique hotel. And I called and said, hi, I wanted to find out about availability for a special birthday coming up. And they said, what's the date that you're looking for? Now, are there other things that they could have said? I just told them it's a special birthday. Oh, how exciting. Whose birthday is it? Or anything. And so that's service potentially before the sale, right? They didn't sell me anything yet. As the call progressed, the person gave me information. They told me, they said, oh, wow. They go, we have absolutely no bookings that day. Now, I don't know that that was good information to share, because I might be thinking, okay, well, what's the matter with this boutique hotel that they have no reservations upcoming for an event that's 2 weeks from now? And at the end of the conversation, I said, okay, thank you for the information. And they said, okay, goodbye. There was no, can I go ahead and make that reservation for you? He didn't provide any information. Like when I had asked him, when he gave me the price, and it wasn't cheap, it was $300 a night, which, that's a nice sum of money to pay for a hotel. I said, does that include breakfast? Oh yeah, breakfast is included. It's a gourmet breakfast, and there's complimentary beer, wine, and champagne throughout the day, and snacks throughout the day. Now, like, that's information that would be helpful to me to make a decision whether or not I wanted to book that. So while he didn't provide me a poor experience, because it wasn't like he was mean or nasty or anything like that, but he didn't give me a reason to want to book this hotel with him. Mm. So yeah, service before the sale is just as important. Now, if he was the owner of the hotel, do you think it would have been a different conversation?
Hopefully, if the owner has any brains, because this person you spoke with missed a lot of opportunities to I'm actually thinking as you're speaking that I typically think of customer service as when somebody calls in to complain, how do we take care of them? But you're really talking about an entire customer experience from start to finish. And that's what this guy missed opening after opening. And Steve Kent just said, in the long term, service wins over price. And I got to tell you, I 100% agree that I live in the real world, and I know that there are people who will cut you off at the knees for a nickel, but I'll absolutely pay more for a good customer service experience for the same exact product or the same meal. I mean, I want to be well taken care of. I think I've shared with you an experience I had one time. I forgot the name of the hotel. It was up in Toronto. I was doing a program for Rogers Radio, which is a huge radio network all over Canada. And I got there late at night, and they have a great, at least they used to have a great steakhouse in this hotel. It'll come to me, the name. And the waiter was simply perfect. It was like he was inside my head and knew exactly when to come over to me and when not to. One of the things I dislike is, when I'm chewing on a mouthful of steak, when the waiter comes over and says, are you enjoying your meal? Yeah, of course I am. But this guy, it was like he was inside my head. It was just spectacular. And if the bill had come and the price was more than it was on the menu, not that I remembered it, but I would have been thrilled to pay whatever it was, because yes, the meal was delicious, but his taking care of me was as if he really cared about me. He in fact, I ordered a Bloody Mary, and he said, have you ever had a Bloody Caesar? And I'm like, no, what's that? He said, it's vodka with clamato juice. And I said, well, that sounds absolutely gross. No, I've never had that. I want a Bloody Mary. And he brought me my Bloody Mary, but in a shot glass. He also brought me another glass, and he said, this is a Bloody Caesar. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, just give it a try. Turned out, by the way, it was delicious. Wow. It's little things like that it's like he cared about me. Right. And I think that's worth more. One of the things I know you do is you teach techniques for building rapport over the phone. And certainly that's crucial in customer service, but there are so many people who sell in inside sales. And nowadays, few of us are really meeting face-to-face, although that's starting to open up more and more. What are some of the best techniques for building rapport over the phone? Not building rapport over the phone.
Yeah, so I think that before we talk about technique, we need to talk about mindset. Because I could tell you every technique out there, and so could you. However, if you're not engaged and present and wanting to do a good job and caring about the reputation of the business and being concerned about whether your business is still going to be in business in 6 months because of the way you take care of customers or not. I think that is the most important thing. And that's one of the things that I think makes me different in my training, because yes, there's plenty of customer service trainers out there, but I'm all about what's going on in your mind first, and then connecting that with your heart, and then giving you the skills that you need to delight customers. So I never start out with, okay, here's what you do when the customer calls and you say this and you do this. I ask the people that are in my sessions, take off your ABC company hat. You're just Jeff, you're just Mary, you're just Bill. And as these individuals, you are a customer of all the businesses that you do business with. And I talk to them about share some stories with me, like you just did, about the good experience that you had. So that waiter, if I would have asked you to share that story, what I would have heard you say is the waiter was attentive, but not overly so. The waiter made recommendations. The waiter connected with you. The waiter went above and beyond to give you a sample of something. Everybody loves free stuff. And as it turned out, you actually liked it. So what are those feelings that you get when you had that good experience? You know, your face was all lit up. That experience was years ago, Jeff, and you're still talking about it. And so by helping employees or individuals emotionally connect to how they feel when they get a good experience is the starting point. Because if I say, oh, we have to provide a better experience, I don't even know what that means. But if I could get you to the place where you had a great experience, that's what we want to duplicate. That's what we want to replicate. And when I go through this exercise and we've got on the board 20 adjectives of what made this a great experience, I say to them, you know, that this is a great list. And, you know, how do you feel when you get this kind of experience? Oh my God, I love it. I want to come back. I want to tell my friends, you know, I'll pay more. I'll travel further because it just made me feel so good. And so then I'll say, okay, put your ABC hat back on. Let's talk about your customers. What is it that you think your customers want when they're doing business with you? And the room looks dumbfounded. They're like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what they could have said that they wanted from us. Who'd you talk to, right? They're like, you know, like all curious, but duh, your customers want the same thing that you do. But something happens when we walk in the door. We take our Jeff hat off, Jeff as the customer, and we put on our ABC company hat. And now we become focused on the process and the rules and the script and the forms and everything else. And I forget that there's a human being on the other side of the counter or the phone that really just wants the same thing that I do. And so if we're not on the same page about that, any technique is going to be for naught. You have to understand and connect with that feeling. That's why I talk about connecting head and heart. How do you feel when you have a great experience? And the opposite, how do you feel when you have a lousy experience? What is a lousy experience? Well, a lousy experience is they don't pay attention to me. They don't smile. They don't give me all the information. They don't call me back. They don't do what they say they're going to do. And then I talk to them about, do you, as an employee representative, owner of the business, do you always do the things that are on that good list? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, why? Like, what gets in your way? And you know what gets in your way?
Tell me.
You get in the way because you're not present. You know how the phone rings and you're like, okay, I gotta get on. It's showtime right now, right? You need to be present to the person in front of you, the person on the other end of the phone, whether they're an external customer or whether they're an internal customer. Because we haven't really talked about internal customers, but all those people that work with you in other departments, those are your internal customers. And the same way that we want to provide a great experience to your external customers, well, guess what? Your internal customers want the same thing. We may be better at providing a good experience to external customers, but oftentimes, and this is a technical term that you use all the time, we suck at providing a good experience to our internal customers. Oh, it's just Jeff from accounting. What do you want now, Jeff? Well, you know what? Jeff had a customer on the phone that needed information that he now has to go back on the phone to the customer. But because I just gave him a hard time, there's a good chance that that negativity is going to rub off on him, which is then going to rub off on the customer. So no matter who you're speaking with, you need to think and act like an owner. You need to be present in the conversation. And something that you talk about all the time, be curious. I'm curious, whose birthday are you celebrating? Is it you said it was a special birthday. Is it 25? No, as a matter of fact, it's 60. My husband's turning 60 and I want to take him away for his birthday, right? But you see how that starts a conversation instead of what's your name, what's your address, what's the date, what's your credit card, where were you on the night of the 17th? That's an interrogation. You can't have an interrogation and provide a good experience. It's like oil and water, they don't mix.
Yeah, I think there's also the mistake that many companies make where they're judging their customer service reps and salespeople make this same mistake by how many calls they can take and how quickly they can get you off the phone. The last thing I want to do is be rushed. I want to be listened to, and I want somebody to take their time, and I want them to take, you use this word all the time, ownership. I want them to take good care of me. And even if they have to transfer me to somebody else or put me on hold and talk to somebody else, I want them to get back to me. And I want them to make sure that I was well taken care of. I'm not going to waste everybody's time with a long story here, but I'm pretty sure I've told you the story about, my headset breaking one time and me having to call customer service. And I was probably on the phone with this woman for a good 25 minutes who had me right from the get-go by saying, tell me what happened and I'm going to take care of you. I mean, my blood pressure was pretty high that day, and I'm a fairly calm guy, but I was upset about something that had happened with my headset. And she just immediately relaxed me, and she listened to everything I said, and she truly seemed to care. And there's a word I use a lot because my coach uses it with me a lot, and I know you feel the same. She had empathy. Mm-hmm. She truly seemed to care about what was going on for me, so much so that when she had gone to her supervisor and asked what she could do for me and came back and I said, I got to tell you the truth, I was really hoping for something a little more. She said, you know what, I agree with you, put me on hold again, and then came back with something way beyond that I even in my wildest dreams expected. And I don't want to go into the whole story because it's a 15-minute story, but it clearly cost them some money to do what they ended up doing, which was replacing my 5-year-old headset for free because something had happened that shouldn't have happened. But I've told that story to audiences all over the world, no kidding, thousands of times. And if this company, Hello Direct, hasn't gotten business from me telling that story about the amazing customer service experience that I had with them, then I'd be shocked. Same thing with Zappos. I mean, they are astoundingly good at customer service to the point where they'll give you something for free just to make you happy. It's insane. And what's insane is that more companies don't have that attitude because, most studies show that it's 6 to 8 times less expensive to sell to an existing customer and 6 to 8 times more expensive to go find a new one. So just taking care of your customers is a brilliant philosophy. How do you turn price shoppers into customers?
That's a good question. I had a client, I was coaching one of the employees, it was an oil company. And I said, what's your biggest challenge? And she said, price shoppers. And I said, okay, let me listen to one of your phone calls. And so this is an oil company. And this happened to be a couple of years ago when home heating oil was probably about $4.50 a gallon, like the highest it's been in a very long time. And a customer called and said, can you tell me how much your oil is? And the representative said, oh, it's $4.50 a gallon. Great. And so, not wanting to strangle her while she's on the phone or kick her under the table, I let her go through the whole conversation. And, the representative said to the customer, listen, if I were you, I wouldn't change right now. like just stick with whatever you have because our prices are really bad. And I thought to myself, okay, there's a deeper story to this. And what I found out was, besides the fact that she turned the customer into a price shopper, right? Listen, everybody wants to get a good deal. But when somebody says, can you tell me how much it is? That doesn't mean you blurt out it's $4.50 a gallon and then sigh afterwards, right? You know what? That's a great question. And I'm happy to give you the pricing. Let me ask you a couple of questions to find out what the best program for you is. I don't want to do you a disservice by just spitting out a price when it may not even be what you want, right? Because oil companies have full service pricing and then they may have COD pricing. And so why would I just spit out a price when I don't know what you're looking for? And so she had deep-seated issues. She had a poverty mindset. And she, listen, she lived in an apartment, she lived paycheck to paycheck. She could never afford to pay $4.50 a gallon for oil. And, she was loyal to the company, like, but she just wasn't able to separate herself from the company. Like she had these self-limiting beliefs herself, like, geez, $4.50. You'd be crazy to change right now. And so we sometimes turn our customers into price shoppers. And the way we avoid that is by controlling the conversation and is by building rapport before we blurt out the price. Now, what I like to teach, which I'm sure goes along what you like to teach, is when I do finally give the price, I say it's only $4.50 a gallon. And then instead of having dead silence, I say, let's go ahead and get you set up because I'm assuming the sale. And I'm entitled to assume the sale, Jeff, because I built rapport with you. I understand what your needs are. I made a recommendation that was perfect for you, and I'm confident in the abilities of my company to service you and provide to you not only the product, but a good customer experience, that of course you're going to say yes. But so again, that goes back to mindset. So when you teach skills, if you don't have your mind aligned, it's going to be for naught. And maybe there'll be a short-term behavior change, but we're looking for long-term, because when clients bring us in, we don't stay there for 2 years. I mean, we may go back and forth, but it's not like we're there every day as on their shoulder, reminding them how to say what to say. So we've got to change behavior in the long term. And that comes from attitude first.
Yeah, the only thing that I would change there, and it's very minor, but important, is instead of $4.50 a gallon, I would say it's $4.50 a gallon. One of the things I teach, and I learned this almost 48 years ago from master sales trainer Tommy Hopkins, you don't want to say the word dollars. Dollars are what are called a red flag word, just like signature or contract. When you say the word dollars, people see green pieces of paper flying out of their wallets. So when I present a proposal and it's say $60,000, I never say it's going to be $60,000. It's the investment is just $60,000, because just like saying something's $59,995 instead of $60,000, it sounds like less. So you want to be psychologically aware. But I love what you just said about poverty mindset, and I find the same thing when people are selling. I was brought up to Canada. I've done a lot of work in Canada, apparently. To Siemens Corporation, the division that manufactures hearing aids. And the reason they brought me up was because they sell hearing aids, or at least they used to.
What'd you say?
Through what they call clinics, which are retail stores with audiologists in them who take they test somebody's hearing, and then they're selling hearing aids. And they had 3 levels of hearing aids, low, medium, and high end. And the audiologists, it turned out, were only selling the lower end ones. Mm-hmm. And they asked me to come up and help them to figure out why they're only doing that. And in speaking with some of them before I did the program, what I found out was exactly what you said. They had poverty mindset. The least expensive set was covered 100% by the Canadian healthcare program. So in essence, people were getting them for free. The most expensive set was $5,000, which is a substantially larger investment than nothing, but there were serious benefits to having the better ones or the medium ones. And it turned out that these audiologists did not make much money. So whenever people walked into their clinic or store, they were thinking, well, I can't afford $5,000, so I'm just going to say, you should take these. So I can't tell you how many times I've observed salespeople in the field when it comes to asking for the money, actually talking about the dollars, they get incredibly hesitant, just like this woman on the phone at the oil company who sighed. When you're presenting your price, you've got to be 100% confident. And I like what you said, assuming the sale. You have to assume that the person on the other end of the line or on the Zoom call or face-to-face who's going to go, oh, sounds good, sign me up. We should always be assuming the sale, not in a cocky way, but in a confident way, because if not, we're psychologically implanting our potential poverty onto somebody else. And look, I'm going into my 48th year in sales. There have been ups and downs. I've been successful in almost every sales organization that I've worked for or trained, but there have been times when I've had money and not had money. And I've certainly had times where I needed the sale or couldn't afford what I was selling, but you got to put that aside. You cannot put your own personal financial situation onto somebody else. That's their problem. That's their issue. And that's for them to be concerned with. I don't count anybody else's money. When I have a client, I watch the money that they're investing with me, or if I'm buying things for them, I watch their money like it's my own. But I never am concerned. I think people are adult enough to know whether they can afford something or not, and whether they see the value or not, and it's up to them to decide. There's something else you talk about, and I'd like to hear more about. What are powerful recommendations?
What are powerful recommendations? Well, it's and you talk about this in your own language. It's about my clients have found that they find value in, or they enjoy having the benefit of. Another industry that I do a lot of work in is pest control. Not glamorous, but let me tell you, when you got bugs, you're looking for somebody to be empathetic and solve your problem in a quick manner. When it comes to what is the right program to sell to somebody, and going back to the poverty mindset of the audiologist, right? So if I have a problem with bugs, I obviously want to pay the least amount of money as possible. And if the person on the other end of the phone who's representing the business has that same mindset, like, oh, I'm going to just offer them the least thing to get rid of their problem, well, we're missing an opportunity, because what we want to do is we don't want to take care of your bugs today. Well, we do want to take care of your problem today, but we also want to take care of your problem over the next year. And our customers have found that when they take our yearly program, they are covered for not only the ants that you're having today, but it also takes care of the the carpenter bees and the crickets that you get in the fall, and the spiders. And so they find that it's peace of mind, and they like having the ability to call up at any time and not have to pay any more money. And so a powerful recommendation is one that you feel strong about. So if the customer says, you make your recommendation and they're like, well, I don't know, that sounds like a lot of money, or is there anything else? Oh yeah, well, you could do this, or you could do this. And so if you yourself are all over the map with the recommendations, it tells me that you're not the expert that you should be, because I come to you because you're the expert and I rely on you. And so if you make a recommendation based on what you're telling me, Jeff, I recommend this, this, and this, because of the fact, talk about pest control. You mentioned, I heard the baby in the background. Sounds like they're young enough to be crawling around. I know how important that would be to make sure that your child is not, crawling around with the bugs. So in other words, using what you're getting from the customer to help build that recommendation. Listen, we talk the same language when it comes to that. So you've got to believe in the recommendation that you're making, and you also have to believe in your company. You need to be talking about your employees. My technician will come out to your house. He'll do a full inspection. He'll go over what he found with you, and then he will treat accordingly. Well, they'll come out and they'll figure out who's they. Who's they? My technician, my accounting department. You need to take ownership of the customer, of the company, of your coworkers, of the reputation of the company. Big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Here at our company or my company, absolutely 100%. I don't want to hear about they. And you're absolutely, of course, 1,000,000% right. First of all, saying that our clients tell us is a really great endorsement, and it makes you more believable when you're actually making that strong recommendation. One of the phrases I use all the time is, in my professional opinion, the smart thing to do is, and sales is a lot of psychology. And if you think about it, there's psychology in those words. When you say to somebody, in my professional opinion, you're telling them, hey, I'm a professional. I know what I'm talking about, just like your doctor, your lawyer, your accountant. The smart thing to do is, well, the implication is that, if you don't do this, you're stupid. Not that we're saying that, but in people's minds, that's what they're thinking, and nobody wants to be stupid. So I'm with you on the powerful recommendations.
I want to just, before you go on, I just want to say that you talk about this as a VPS, a verbal proof story, right? I had a customer last week who felt that way also. And what they realized afterwards was that this was the best investment because ... So stories sell. We both believe that.
Yeah, we in sales, we certainly have to remember that our reputation is not great. Not necessarily the company you work for, the product that you represent, but a lot of people don't trust salespeople. So when I say, you should use my company and here's why, well, people know that I've got a vested interest in them using my company because they're going to pay me and it's going to go into my pocket. I'm going to feed my family. But when I say, your situation reminds me of XYZ company, they also had X amount of salespeople and this problem, and here's what I did and here's how it worked out. We increased sales and increased appointments and all that stuff. That's just that story about somebody else like you, Mr. or Miss Prospect, who did business with me and it worked out happily ever after, helps them to break down what I call the brick wall that prospects build up between us and them. My belief is that it's not a physical brick wall, but they have a brick wall built up between us and them because they don't want to be sold. They want to buy stuff, but they don't want to be sold. And I believe on our side of the wall, they hang a sign that says, I'm not buying anything. And if I do buy something, it's sure not going to be today. And we need to help them break down the brick wall that prevents them from buying for themselves, because we really can't do it for them. People come to their own decision. The old saying, the customer is always right. Well, the customer is not always right, but they're always the customer. Right. And there's nothing you or I can do with all our experience and expertise to talk anybody into anything that they don't want or don't need or can't afford, unless we're willing to lie, cheat, or steal, which I'm not, and I know you're not. So it's incumbent upon us to have enough of those success stories that we can share with people so that they feel more comfortable, because psychologically they think, oh, well, it worked out well for somebody else. Maybe that's going to work out well for me too.
Well, just to piggyback on what you said, a lot of people that I work with who are in a customer service role have sales responsibilities as well. And maybe they didn't initially, they weren't hired to sell, and they're like, I hate selling. And I said, you know what, me too. I don't want to sell anything. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want the sale. However, if I provide you with the kind of experience that you want, and a lot of the companies that I work with, they're receiving inbound calls. It's not more that you work with where they're making outbound calls. If I get out the phone book and I start calling, all the A's and I say, hi, Mrs. Apgar, would you like to buy pest control services? That's a hard sale. But if Mrs. Apgar calls me up on the phone and says, I have ants in my house, can you help me? I don't have to sell her anything because she called me and she said, help, I have a problem. Can you help me? And, oh, wow, you know what? I'm a pest control company. Of course I can help you. We deal with this all the time. Don't worry, you're in good hands. There's no selling involved. And so that mindset shift helps as well.
The other one that blows my mind is when somebody calls and says, we're calling people in your neighborhood. Really? Oh, I feel so special. Thank you so much. It blows my mind. Rich Atkins, who works in your industry also, among other things, says, why would a guy like me avoid getting his motorcycle housed in Port Washington, where he lives, and go all the way into Manhattan on the west side? The answer is awful customer service that I've gotten from the service places on Long Island. So people will pay more for great customer service and they'll inconvenience themselves. I know it's fun to ride your motorcycle into Manhattan, but not just to get customer service taken care of or to keep it housed there. So 100% right. Great customer service can get you a sale and keep a long-term customer. we all know the customer that stays is the customer that pays. We want to create long-term relationships when we're selling, and customer service is a crucial part of that. What's the biggest mistake or the number one mistake that businesses make in terms of customer service?
Not paying attention to it, not knowing what kind of experience they're really providing, which is because when we hire people, if they have industry knowledge or they've done customer service before, we assume, sometimes erroneously, and you know what happens when you assume anyway, we assume that they know how to provide good customer service because they've been providing customer service for X number of years. But here's the thing, I'm going to go back to the ladies, right? She may show up at the interview, but sometimes she is who shows up for the actual job. And so we need to ensure, and I'm sorry, I actually just lost your question that you asked me.
The biggest mistake that companies make in terms of customer service.
Oh, right. So we think we're hiring this person, but this is the person that's actually answering the telephone and serving our customers. We're not checking. We're not verifying. We're not listening to phone calls. We're not listening to feedback from customers. And that's why the test call that I offered at the beginning of our conversation is so important, because you don't know what you don't know. Like you might think, oh, yeah, I've heard Mary on the phone and sometimes she sounds a little short with the customers. But when you get a recorded phone call that is in your face, there is no escaping or hiding from the fact that you have a serious problem in your organization. Because, the story that you just told about Rich, we talk as customers. We talk when it's good. We talk when it's bad. And people are listening. And they're making their decisions on other people's recommendations. Have you ever gone on Amazon and looked at reviews? Have you ever gone on Yelp or TripAdvisor to see, do I want to go to this restaurant or not? We base our buying decisions on the opinions of total strangers. And so every customer that you have has a weapon in their possession. And I don't have mine next to me, but it's a cell phone. And that weapon can be used to trash your company based on an experience that I have with you. So people are talking, and the stories that they tell are based on who is taking care of them and the experience that they are providing.
Yeah,
So
Rich Eckens said, we talk, we post Google reviews, and people do. And I know I've heard you say it many times, when you're happy with someone, you might tell one or two people, but when you're pissed off, you're going to tell 100. You're going to spread the word wide. There's so many more things I want to talk to you about, and we're quickly running out of time. Could you just briefly, and I think you started to talk about it a bit before, but I've heard you talk many times, and I think it's so important. Owner mentality.
Yeah. So, think about, I know your kids are in college right now, so I'm going to use that as an example. And they're young and they're still moldable and shapeable, we hope. But of course, with you as their dad, I'm sure they're off to a great start with good genes. But so assuming that your kids are going to get jobs while they're in school, and play along with me, even if they're not going to. So they're going to get a job, and the purpose of the job is so that they have spending money. And they have gas money and they can go out with their friends and things like that. So they need a job, right? They need a job. And hopefully they'll have a job for the 4 years of their college, right? Not that they'll have to go keep looking for new jobs each time. And so when you think of that mindset, if they need a job for the next 4 years, how can they help ensure that they will have that job over the next 4 years? And the way they do that is by showing up as Rave, by showing up on time, by coming in early, by going above and beyond, by volunteering for projects. And when they do that, or when they delight the customers are going to keep coming back. And there's a good chance that the company is going to still be in business in 4 years. But if they have the mindset, yeah, this is just a stupid part-time job. I don't really care what happens. 10 o'clock, yeah, I'll be there by 10:15. And we don't take customers, inquiries or complaints seriously, there's a good chance that they're going to lose that job. And so if they lose that job, then they have no gas money. And if they have no gas money, then they can't go out with their friends. And if they can't go out with their friends, then they're coming knocking on your door to get money to help, perpetuate their, crazy young lifestyle. So when I talk about thinking like an owner of the business, whether you're going to be working there this semester only, the next 4 years, or you plan to be here for the next 30 years, how you show up every day and how you act is going to have a big impact on that outcome for you personally and for the company. And so there's every reason to think and act like an owner of the business. And there's no reason not to. But again, it's a conscious decision and it's being present. And how many times a day are we not present? And that gets us in trouble. That gets us in trouble. So you don't have to be the owner. Your name doesn't have to be outside the building. You don't have to be getting stock shares. You can think and act like an owner of the business. And I promise you, well, I won't promise you. I hope that your boss and leadership will recognize that. And that becomes then a stepping stone to you for furthering your career in the organization, raises, promotions, acknowledgments, things like that. And I don't know about you, but I feel really good when I help people. I feel really good when I go above and beyond. And it makes me want to do it more. That's why those rave cards are so important, because how often do employees not get praise for what they're doing from a customer or their boss? And by the way, you can praise your coworkers also. Wow, thanks for taking over that call, Jeff. You really, you saved my butt on that. Or wow, you handled that so well. I could probably learn from you. So affirmations and praise and appreciation doesn't just have to come from your boss or the customer or your coworker, but we're all starving for that. And so I think when we demonstrate ownership mindset, it's recognized, it's acknowledged, and it's rewarded.
Yeah, and I'm always honored when I hear my words coming out of your mouth. And here are some that I've heard from you over and over, and it's so true. The boss, the owner, also has to model the behavior. Because I've heard you give the example. If the boss is screaming at a customer on the phone, or actually gives good service and then hangs up and goes, "Oh, I hate that person," then what are the employees learning? It goes both ways. And you said something earlier on in our conversation, which is so true. And Zig Ziglar says it, stop selling and start serving. When we truly come from truly helping people and serving the customer, that's when we really have success in sales and in customer service. And you and I have talked about this before. We both truly do love to help. I don't say that to be altruistic. I love getting paid for helping people, but there's a really good feeling from serving others and coming from, look, we all need to get paid, of course. But when you truly come from, I'm here to help you. Let's see if I can do that. I'm going to do my very best. And if I can't, I'm going to let you know that too. That's when I think we're reaching true success. Before we leave, could you just let people know how they can reach you? I'm going to put your contact information on the screen, but it's on there right now. We just tell people how they can reach you and where they can get the book if they're interested in it.
Yeah, so the book is on Amazon, which, is amazing that I, Randi Busse, have a book on Amazon. I co-wrote the book with Carol Hetty. There's a copy of it, Turning Rants into Raves. My website is workdevgroup.com. You can reach me by phone, 631-598-5598. I hope that some brave person listening now or on the recording is going to take me up on my offer of a complimentary test call into your business. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, no, I don't need that because my people are really good. And others of you are thinking, oh crap, I don't want her to call me because I don't really think we're very good. So either way, you can get validation of how you're really doing. So I dare you to ask for a test call.
Randi, thank you so much for being with us today. I know I always learn something new every time I hear you, and it's always great to get reinforced on all the stuff that we need to know to deliver both customer service and great sales experiences. You truly are the best at what you do, and I cherish our friendship and everything that we've done together over the years. Thank you for generously giving your time and advice today. It's been really just a thrill.
My pleasure. And of course, I learned something from you every time also. No more dollars. Won't be talking
Absolutely.
about
Don't
dollars.
talk about dollars.
Thank
And
you, Jeff.
my pleasure. Thank you for being here. To the Sales Pro Network, as I always end, please remember, sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen today. Bye, everyone.
Bye.